I remember that day so vividly. The bridal shop had called to let me know my wedding dress was finally ready for pickup after months of waiting. I'd been counting down the days, checking my phone obsessively for any updates. This was supposed to be one of those magical moments every bride dreams about. The bell chimed softly as I pushed open the door to Eloise's bridal boutique. The familiar scent of perfume and fabric softener greeted me, along with the sound of classical music playing quietly in the background. I'd been here so many times for fittings that it almost felt like a second home. "Emma, you're here for the big reveal." Marissa, the shop assistant, clapped her hands together in excitement. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and I couldn't help but smile despite the knot of nerves in my stomach. "I can't believe it's finally ready," I replied, my voice trembling slightly with anticipation. "You're going to love it. It's absolutely stunning," Marissa assured me as she led me toward the back of the store. "Rebecca is just making some final touches. She'll be out with your dress in just a moment." I nodded, perching on the edge of a plush velvet chair. My fingers fidgeted with the strap of my purse as I waited. After 6 months of planning, my wedding to Daniel was just 3 weeks away. Everything was coming together perfectly. The venue was booked, the flowers were ordered, and now, finally, my dress would be ready. A movement in the corner of the shop caught my attention. I turned my head and was surprised to see my cousin Vanessa sitting in the waiting area, scrolling through her phone. She glanced up, and for a brief moment, our eyes met. A strange expression flashed across her face before she offered me a tight smile. "Vanessa? What are you doing here?" I asked, genuinely confused. We weren't exactly close. In fact, we'd barely spoken since my engagement party, where she'd made several passive-aggressive comments about Daniel and our relationship. "Oh, Emma," she said, as if just noticing me. "Just, some alterations." She waved her hand dismissively and returned to her phone. Something about her presence made me uneasy, but I didn't have time to dwell on it because Rebecca, the seamstress, emerged from the back room with a large garment bag. "Here it is, Emma," Rebecca announced proudly, hanging the bag on a hook by the mirror. "Are you ready to see it?" My heart raced with excitement. "Absolutely," I breathed. Rebecca carefully unzipped the bag, revealing the ivory lace and satin gown I'd fallen in love with months ago. It was even more beautiful than I remembered. The delicate beadwork catching the light, the custom lace appliques trailing down the bodice. "It's perfect," I whispered, reaching out to touch the fabric. "Let me help you try it on," Rebecca offered. "We'll make sure everything fits just right before you take it home." I followed her into the changing room, where she helped me into the dress. The cool fabric slid against my skin as she fastened the tiny buttons that ran down the back. When I looked in the mirror, I hardly recognized myself. The dress fit like it was made for me, hugging my curves in all the right places before flowing out into a subtle train. "You look stunning," Rebecca said, making a few adjustments to the hem. "Let's go show your family." I stepped out of the changing room, feeling like a princess in a fairy tale. Marissa gasped when she saw me, and even Vanessa looked up from her phone, her expression unreadable. "Turn around," Rebecca instructed, smoothing down the train behind me. "Let me check the bustle one more time." As I turned, Rebecca knelt to adjust something near the hem of the dress. That's when I noticed her frown. "Is everything okay?" I asked, suddenly concerned. "Just let me check something," she murmured, examining the inside of the dress more closely. A feeling of dread washed over me as her frown deepened. She stood up and gently guided me back toward the changing room. "I need to check something inside the dress," she explained, her voice low. "Give me just a moment." I stood there, confused and increasingly anxious, as Rebecca inspected the interior of the gown. Her expression grew increasingly troubled. "What is it?" I finally asked, unable to bear the suspense any longer. Rebecca hesitated, then turned the dress slightly so I could see inside the bodice. There, stitched in elegant blue thread, was a name, but it wasn't mine. "Vanessa Mitchell," I read aloud, my voice barely audible. "What? Why is my cousin's name in my wedding dress?" Rebecca's eyes widened in surprise. "This is your dress, isn't it? Order number 8742? "Yes, that's my order number," I confirmed, my heart beginning to pound. "You didn't know?" Rebecca asked, pointing at the stitched name. We always embroider the bride's name and wedding date inside the gown, but this says Vanessa Mitchell, October 18th. October 18th, my wedding date. With my cousin's name, the room seemed to spin around me. I gripped the edge of a nearby chair to steady myself. There must be some mistake, I managed to say. My name is Emma Collins. This is my dress. I picked it out, I paid for it. I've been coming here for fittings for months. Rebecca looked deeply confused. Let me check the order forms again, she said, hurrying to the front desk. I stood there, frozen in place, staring at the name stitched inside what was supposed to be my wedding dress. Vanessa's name, in my dress, on my wedding date. I looked out into the waiting area where Vanessa was still sitting. But now I noticed she wasn't just casually scrolling through her phone. She was watching me, her lips curved in a subtle smirk. In that moment, something clicked. All those times she'd asked detailed questions about my wedding plans, her sudden interest in my venue and vendors, the way she'd insisted on coming to one of my dress appointments months ago, claiming she just wanted to share the experience with me. Rebecca returned, her face pale. Emma, I don't know how to tell you this, but there's a problem with the order. According to our records, this dress was purchased by Vanessa Mitchell for a wedding on October 18th. That's impossible, I protested. That's my wedding date. I've been engaged to Daniel for over a year. Everyone knows that. Emma, is everything okay? Vanessa called from across the shop, her voice dripping with fake concern as she stood up and approached us. You look upset. I turned to face her, still wearing the dress, my dress, with her name stitched inside it. What did you do? I demanded, my voice shaking with emotion. What are you talking about? Vanessa replied, her eyes wide with feigned innocence. Your name is inside my wedding dress, I said, for my wedding date. Oh, Vanessa's fake surprise didn't reach her eyes. There must be some confusion. This is my dress. I ordered it months ago. That's a lie. My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. I chose this dress. I paid for it. I've been coming here for fittings since January. Rebecca looked between us, clearly uncomfortable. Perhaps we should all sit down and figure this out. There's nothing to figure out, Vanessa said coolly. I have the receipt. She pulled out her phone and showed Rebecca an email confirmation. Rebecca studied it, then looked at me apologetically. This does show that Vanessa made the final payment for this dress 2 weeks ago. What? That's not possible. I put down the deposit. I've been making payments. My voice trailed off as a horrible realization dawned on me. 2 weeks ago, my credit card had been declined when I tried to make the final payment over the phone. The boutique had called to tell me there was an issue with my card. I'd been confused because I knew there was plenty of money in my account, but I'd promised to come in person to sort it out. With all the wedding planning chaos, I'd completely forgotten. You knew my card was declined, I said slowly, the pieces falling into place. You knew, and you swooped in and paid for my dress. My dress, Vanessa. Why would you do that? It's not your dress anymore, Emma, Vanessa replied, her pretense of innocence fading. It's mine now, and Daniel will be too. The shop fell silent. Even Marissa, who had been hovering nearby, gasped audibly. What are you talking about? I whispered, though a part of me already knew the answer. Daniel and I have been talking, Vanessa said, her voice casual as if discussing the weather. For quite some time, actually. He didn't know how to tell you, so I thought I'd help move things along by securing the dress. After all, the venue and everything else is already paid for. It would be a shame to let it all go to waste. My legs threatened to give out beneath me. Daniel and Vanessa? It seemed impossible, absurd, and yet suddenly, painfully plausible. The late nights he'd claimed were work, the text messages he'd hidden from me, his increasing distance over the past few months. You're lying, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. Check his phone, Vanessa suggested, her smile turning triumphant. Or better yet, ask him yourself. He's been trying to find the right time to tell you. Rebecca cleared her throat awkwardly. Perhaps we should continue this conversation in private. Emma, would you like to change out of the dress? The dress. My beautiful wedding dress that now had my cousin's name sewn into it. The dress I'd dreamed about wearing as I walked down the aisle toward Daniel. "No," I said suddenly, surprising even myself with the firmness in my voice. "I'm not changing. Not yet." I pulled out my phone with trembling hands and called Daniel. He answered on the third ring. "Hey babe, what's up?" "I'm in a meeting." "Are you having an affair with my cousin?" I asked without preamble, my voice somehow steady despite the turmoil inside me. The silence that followed was all the answer I needed. "Emma, This isn't how I wanted you to find out," Daniel finally said, his voice low. "Where are you? We should talk about this in person." "I'm at the bridal shop," I replied coldly, "with Vanessa, and the wedding dress that now has her name in it. For our wedding date, Daniel. Our wedding date." Another long pause. "I'm so sorry, Emma. I never meant for this to happen." The familiar platitudes of unfaithful partners everywhere. I ended the call without another word, then looked up to meet Vanessa's smug expression. "You always did get everything," she said quietly. "The attention, the love, the perfect boyfriend. I was tired of being in your shadow." I stood there in my wedding dress. No, not my wedding dress anymore, feeling as though the ground had crumbled beneath my feet. In the span of 10 minutes, I'd lost my fiancé, my wedding, and any illusion of family loyalty I might have clung to. But something else was stirring inside me, beneath the shock and hurt. A quiet, steady resolve. A voice reminding me that I deserved better than a man who would betray me with my own cousin, better than family who would stab me in the back. "Rebecca," I said, turning to the seamstress who was watching the scene unfold with wide eyes. "I'd like to change now." As Rebecca helped me out of the dress in the changing room, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. My eyes were dry, my chin lifted. I looked different somehow. Older, perhaps. Wiser, definitely. "I'm so sorry about all this," Rebecca whispered as she carefully hung up the dress. "It's not your fault," I replied. Then I paused, a thought occurring to me. "Actually, can I ask you something?" "Of course," Rebecca nodded. "How much would it cost to order another one of these dresses? A different size, different embellishments, but the same basic design?" Rebecca looked surprised. "Well, with rush fees and alterations, probably around $5,000, but it wouldn't arrive in time for your wedding date." I smiled grimly. "That's okay. I don't have a wedding date anymore." As I stepped out of the changing room back in my regular clothes, Vanessa was still there, watching me with that same smug expression. "I hope there are no hard feelings," she said, though her tone made it clear she couldn't care less about my feelings. Family is family, after all. I looked at her for a long moment, seeing her clearly perhaps for the first time. The cousin who had always been jealous, always competitive, always undermining me in subtle ways I'd chosen to ignore for the sake of family peace. "You're right, Vanessa. Family is family," I replied, my voice steady. "Which is why what you've done is so much worse." I turned to Rebecca. "I'd like to place an order for a new dress, please." The following week was the hardest of my life. Canceling a wedding is like dismantling a complex machine. So many parts to take apart, so many people to notify. Each phone call and email felt like reopening a wound. "The wedding is off," I repeated mechanically to vendors, guests, family members. Most expressed sympathy. Some demanded details. I offered none. My mother was devastated when I told her, not just about the cancellation, but about the betrayal. "Your own cousin? And Daniel? How could they do this to you?" she kept asking, as if repetition might somehow yield a satisfactory answer. There was no satisfactory answer, just the cold reality that the two people I had trusted most had been lying to me for months, that while I'd been choosing floral arrangements and cake flavors, they'd been choosing each other. I'd moved out of our apartment the same day I discovered the truth, taking only what I could fit in my car. Daniel had called and texted repeatedly, his messages oscillating between apologies and justifications. "It just happened, Emma. I never meant to hurt you. We can't help who we fall in love with." Each message stoked the fire of my anger. Nothing just happens. Betrayal is a series of choices, made day after day, Vanessa, meanwhile, had the audacity to send a family-wide email announcing her engagement to Daniel, conveniently omitting the circumstances. According to her version of events, they had reconnected recently and fallen in love, and while the timing was unfortunate, they hoped everyone would respect their happiness. The responses had been mixed. Some family members, unaware of the full story, congratulated them. Others, who had pieced together the truth, expressed concern or outrage on my behalf. A few simply stayed silent, unwilling to take sides. My aunt, Vanessa's mother, called me on the third day. "Emma, darling," she began, her voice carefully modulated. "I just want you to know that I had no idea about any of this. I'm so sorry for what's happened." "Do you believe that what they did was wrong?" I asked directly. There was a pause. "These situations are always complicated, dear. Of course, the timing is unfortunate. But the heart wants what the heart wants." "The heart doesn't want deception and betrayal, Aunt Linda," I replied coldly. "People choose those things. Well, I hope in time you'll find it in your heart to forgive them. Family is so important, Emma." "Yes, it is," I agreed, which is why their betrayal hurts so much. I ended the call feeling even more alone. It seemed that in the eyes of some family members, my pain was simply an inconvenient obstacle to a happy new relationship. On the 7th day, as I sat in my temporary room at my best friend Zoe's apartment sorting through wedding RSVPs that had arrived too late to cancel, my phone buzzed with a text from an unfamiliar number. "This is Rebecca from Eloise's Bridal. Your new dress has arrived. I know it's sooner than expected, but we got lucky with shipping. Would you like to come in for a fitting?" I stared at the text for a long moment. The dress I'd impulsively ordered in the wake of discovering Vanessa and Daniel's betrayal, a dress I had no use for now. "I'll be there in an hour," I texted back. Rebecca was waiting for me when I arrived at the boutique. The shop was quieter than usual, lacking the excited chatter of brides-to-be and their entourages. "I had them open early just for you," Rebecca explained, leading me to a private fitting room. "I thought you might prefer some privacy." "Thank you," I said, genuinely touched by her consideration. The dress she brought out was similar to my original one, but with subtle differences. Where the first dress had been classic ivory, this one was the palest blush. The beadwork was more elaborate, the lace more intricate. It was, in many ways, even more beautiful than the one Vanessa had stolen. "It's stunning," I breathed as Rebecca carefully laid it out. "Would you like to try it on?" she asked gently. I hesitated. "What's the point? I don't have a wedding anymore." Rebecca's eyes were kind but firm. "The point is that you ordered this dress for yourself, not for anyone else. Not for Daniel, not in response to Vanessa. For you." Her words hit me with unexpected force. She was right. In that moment of betrayal and loss, I'd made a choice to value myself. "Okay," I said. "Let's try it on." As Rebecca helped me into the dress, I felt a strange sense of déjà vu. Just a week ago, I'd stood in this same shop, having my world shattered. Now I was back, piecing together something new from the wreckage. The dress fit perfectly, as if it had been made for me all along. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself, not because of the dress, but because of the woman wearing it. Her eyes were clearer, her stance more confident. She looked like someone who had faced betrayal and survived. "It's perfect," Rebecca said softly. "And look." She showed me the inside of the bodice, where my name, Emma Collins, was embroidered in delicate blue thread. Below it was a date, 1 year from now. "I took the liberty," Rebecca explained. "Not for a wedding date necessarily, but a reminder. 1 year from now, you'll be in a different place. This dress can be for whatever celebration you choose." Tears filled my eyes for the first time since the day I'd discovered Vanessa's betrayal. Not tears of sadness or anger, but of something else. Gratitude, perhaps. Or hope. "Thank you," I whispered. As Rebecca helped me change back into my regular clothes, she asked, "Have you decided what you're going to do? About Daniel and Vanessa, I mean?" I considered her question. The truth was, I'd been thinking about little else for the past week. "I'm not going to do anything to them," I finally said. but I am going to do something for myself. After paying for the dress and arranging to pick it up later, I drove to my parents' house. They'd been letting me stay there occasionally while I figured out more permanent living arrangements. My mother was in the kitchen when I arrived, sorting through what I recognized as wedding gifts that had arrived before I could cancel the registry. "Oh, Emma," she said when she saw me. "I was just trying to organize these so we can return them." "Actually, Mom, I need to talk to you about that," I replied, taking a seat at the kitchen island. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened, and I've made some decisions." My mother looked apprehensive. "What kind of decisions?" "First, I'm not returning all the gifts. Some of them, yes, the ones meant specifically for a couple. But the kitchen appliances, the linens, the things I can use, I'm keeping those. But the people who sent those gifts care about me, Mom. They wanted to help me start my new life. The fact that Daniel won't be part of that life doesn't mean I don't deserve to start fresh." My mother nodded slowly. "I suppose that makes sense. Second," I continued, "I'm not going to Aunt Linda's birthday dinner next month. Emma, I know you're upset with Vanessa, but your aunt hasn't done anything wrong. She's chosen to support her daughter's relationship with my fiancé mom. She called it unfortunate timing. That's a choice." "But she's caught in the middle," my mother protested. "There is no middle when it comes to betrayal," I said firmly. "And I'm not obligated to pretend there is for the sake of family harmony." My mother sighed, looking down at the gifts spread across the counter. "I just don't want you to do something you'll regret later. Family is forever." "So are the consequences of our choices," I replied. Which brings me to my third decision. I'm using part of what would have been our honeymoon fund to put a deposit on an apartment. In Boston. Boston? My mother's head snapped up. But that's 4 hours away. It's also where that job offer I turned down last year is still available, I explained. I called yesterday and they're still interested. It's a better position, better pay, and a chance at a fresh start. "But all your friends are here, your family, your support system." "My support system just proved to be a lot smaller than I thought," I said gently. "And true friends will still be there, even with a few hours' distance between us." My mother looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You've always been strong, Emma, even as a little girl. I hate seeing you hurt like this." "I'm hurt, Mom, but I'm not broken," I assured her. "And I refuse to let what they did define the rest of my life." That evening, as I sorted through my belongings, deciding what to take to Boston and what to leave behind, my phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. "Can we talk? I think we need closure." I stared at the message, feeling a flicker of the old pain, but not the overwhelming wave that would have consumed me a week ago. Closure. Such a convenient concept for the person who did the hurting. "We had closure when you decided to pursue a relationship with my cousin behind my back," I typed back. "I don't need anything more from you." I pressed send, then blocked his number. Vanessa's too, for good measure. The next morning, I called Rebecca from the bridal shop. "I've been thinking about the dress," I said, "and I know exactly what I want to do with it." 2 days later, I stood in front of the mirror in my new blush wedding gown, but I wasn't in a bridal shop or a church. I was in a professional photography studio. "Are you sure about this?" Zoe asked, adjusting the train of the dress. "It's a lot of money for something so unconventional." "I'm sure," I nodded, watching as the photographer set up his equipment. The idea had come to me during one of my sleepless nights. A photo shoot, not bridal photos as I'd originally planned, but something different. A visual representation of my journey from betrayal to independence. The photographer, Marcus, had been intrigued by the concept. "So, to be clear, you want photos of yourself in your wedding dress, but not traditional bridal portraits?" "Exactly," I'd confirmed. "I want them to tell a story of moving forward, of choosing myself." Now, as I stood in the beautiful dress with my name stitched inside, I felt a sense of reclamation. This dress, unlike the first one, had never been about Daniel. It had always been mine. The photo shoot lasted 3 hours. We started with more traditional poses, then moved to more symbolic setups. Me looking out a window toward the horizon, walking along a path that curved into the distance, standing at a crossroads, my expression determined. For the final set, we moved outdoors to a scenic overlook just outside of town. The late afternoon sun cast everything in a golden glow as I stood at the edge, the city spread out below, my dress catching the light. "These are going to be stunning," Marcus said as he reviewed some of the shots on his camera, especially with the story behind them. "That's the whole point," I replied. "The story isn't over just because it didn't end the way I expected." On my way home, I drove past the venue where Daniel and I were supposed to get married. According to the family grapevine, Vanessa and Daniel had managed to keep the date and location, stepping seamlessly into the wedding I had planned. The old me might have felt a stab of pain at the thought. The new me simply drove past, eyes on the road ahead. When I got home, there was a package waiting for me on the doorstep. Inside was a small box and a note from Rebecca at the bridal shop. "I thought you might want this," the note read. "Consider it my wedding gift to you, the you that's brave enough to start over." Inside the box was a delicate hairpin with a pearl and crystal design, the one I had admired during one of my fittings but had decided was too extravagant. I smiled, touched by her thoughtfulness, and placed it carefully on my dresser. It would be perfect for the day I picked up my life and moved to Boston. A new beginning, marked with something beautiful. That night, as I finished packing up the last of my belongings, my phone rang. It was an unknown number, but something told me to answer it. "Emma, it's Aunt Linda." I almost hung up, but curiosity got the better of me. "What do you want, Aunt Linda?" I owe you an apology," she said, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "I spoke with Daniel today. He told me things had been going on between them for months, long before you found out." "Yes," I said simply. "They had." "I didn't know, Emma. When Vanessa told me about their relationship, she made it sound like it developed after you and Daniel had problems, that it was a recent thing." "We didn't have problems, Aunt Linda. At least none that I knew about. They created this situation, not me." There was a long pause. "I believe you," she finally said. "And I'm sorry for what I said before, about the heart wanting what it wants. That wasn't fair to you." Her words were like a small crack in the wall of hurt I'd built around myself. Not enough to bring it down, but enough to let in a sliver of light. "Thank you for saying that," I replied, surprised by how much it meant to hear someone acknowledge the truth. "Your mother told me you're moving to Boston," Aunt Linda continued. "I think that's brave of you, starting fresh." "It's not about bravery," I corrected her. "It's about choosing myself for once." After we hung up, I sat on my bed surrounded by boxes and thought about the path that had led me here. From the shock of seeing Vanessa's name in my wedding dress to the determination to forge a new future for myself. The betrayal still hurt. I suspected it always would to some extent, but it no longer defined me. It was simply part of my story, a painful chapter, but not the conclusion. Tomorrow, I would drive to Boston to sign the lease on my new apartment. Next week, I would start my new job. And 1 year from now, on the date embroidered inside my beautiful blush dress, I would put it on again. Not for a wedding, but for myself. A celebration of survival, of growth, of choosing to write my own ending. As I drifted off to sleep, I thought about the photos Marcus had taken, of me in the dress that was supposed to symbolize one kind of beginning, now representing another entirely. They would be the first things I'd hang in my new place, a reminder that sometimes the most beautiful journeys start with the most painful steps. And as for Vanessa and Daniel, they could have the dress with her name in it, the venue, the date. They could even have each other. But they would never have my power to start again. That belonged to me alone. Boston welcomed me with unexpected warmth, as if the city itself understood I needed a fresh start. My apartment in a renovated South End brownstone was small but filled with morning light, as Mrs. Patel, my landlady, had promised when handing over the keys. "It's a good apartment for new beginnings," she'd said with a knowing smile that made me wonder if starting over had its own recognizable energy. The emptiness felt appropriate. Just a few boxes I'd shipped ahead, and basic furniture I'd purchased online. A blank canvas waiting for new memories untainted by betrayal. My new position at Meridian Publishing started on a Monday, I'd interned there during college and almost accepted their job offer last year before choosing to stay in my hometown with Daniel. When I called to see if they might still be interested, the HR director remembered me immediately. "Emma Collins, I was disappointed when you turned us down. Let me check if there's anything available." There was, an associate editor position, one step up from what they'd originally offered. The universe's way of compensating for lost time, perhaps. On my first day, I placed just 2 framed photos from my dress shoot on my desk, me looking toward the horizon and standing at the crossroads. My new colleague, Layla, noticed them immediately. "Is that your wedding dress?" she asked. "It's gorgeous." "It was supposed to be," I replied honestly. "Things changed." "But you kept the photos?" Her tone was confused but not judgmental. "They remind me of choosing myself." Layla studied them for a moment, then looked at me with new understanding. "That's actually pretty badass." By the end of my first week, I'd fallen into a comfortable rhythm. Work during the day, exploring my neighborhood in the evenings, video calls with my parents and close friends on weekends. Boston was beginning to feel like home. Then came the email from Vanessa. "Touching base. Emma, I hope this finds you well. I heard from Aunt Julie that you've moved to Boston and started a new job. That sounds exciting. Daniel and I wanted to reach out and clear the air. Our wedding is in 2 weeks, as you know, and while we don't expect you to attend or acknowledge it, we hoped we could at least establish some civil communication for future family gatherings. Perhaps we could schedule a video call to talk things through. Best, Vanessa." The audacity was breathtaking. Clear the air. As if we'd had a minor disagreement rather than months of deception and betrayal. Civil communication, as if I were the one who had created an awkward family situation. I closed the email without responding and blocked Vanessa's address. Then I blocked Daniel's email too, realizing I'd never done that, only his phone number. The next morning, my cousin Amy called. "Just a heads up, Vanessa's telling everyone you're still too emotional to respond to her olive branch. She's positioning herself as the mature, forgiving one." "Of course she is," I sighed. "What did you tell her?" "That she's lucky you haven't hired a skywriter to spell out what they did over their wedding venue," Amy replied, making me laugh for the first time in forever about the situation. "She's also been asking about your new dress. Rebecca mentioned it to someone, and now Vanessa's convinced you're planning some dramatic scene at her wedding." I nearly choked on my coffee. "What? I have no interest in being anywhere near their wedding. I'm building a life 4 hours away for a reason." "I know that, but Vanessa's always been the dramatic one. She's projecting." After we hung up, I felt unsettled. The idea that Vanessa was spinning narratives about me, positioning herself as reasonable while painting me as bitter and vengeful, was infuriating. Even from hundreds of miles away, she was still attempting to control the story. My phone pinged with a text from my mother. "Honey, Aunt Linda just called. Vanessa is concerned you might be planning something for the wedding day. I told her that's ridiculous, but thought you should know." I called my mother back immediately. "Mom, I need you to listen carefully. I am not planning anything for Vanessa's wedding. I have no interest in their wedding or relationship. I'm building a new life here, and I'm happy. Please make that clear to anyone who asks." "What would you like me to do?" my mother asked, her voice gentle. The question caught me off guard. My mother had always been supportive, but rarely asked for my direct input on family matters. "I would like you to correct anyone who suggests I'm bitter or plotting revenge," I said firmly. "I would like you to remind them that Daniel and Vanessa are the ones who betrayed me, and I would like you to respect my decision not to attend family gatherings where they will be present." "You're right," she said simply. "I haven't been firm enough in defending you. That changes now." True to her word, my mother became my most vocal advocate. She shut down gossip at family gatherings, refused to engage in discussions about both sides, and made it clear that while she wouldn't cut off Vanessa or Daniel entirely, she would not pretend what they did was acceptable. Meanwhile, I threw myself into building my new life. Boston in fall was magical. Vibrant foliage, crisp air, the energy of a city renewing itself. I joined a book club, took a pottery class, and even went on a few casual dates. Nothing serious, but steps toward reclaiming that part of myself. Work became a sanctuary. At Meridian, I was known only as Emma the editor, competent, creative, collegial. No one looked at me with pity or whispered about my drama until Layla spotted a familiar name on a manuscript submission. "Collins," she called across our workspace. "Isn't your hometown Oak Ridge?" "Yes. Why?" "There's a submission here from someone in Oak Ridge. Daniel Warren. Any relation?" The name hit me like a physical blow. Daniel. Submitting a manuscript to my publishing house. The submission confirmed it was indeed my ex-fiancé. The manuscript was titled Second Chances, a romance about a man who falls in love with his girlfriend's cousin. "He's my ex-fiancé," I told Layla quietly. "The one who cheated with my cousin. And now he's written a book about it? That's disgusting." "Forward it to Jason," I decided, referring to our editorial director. With a note explaining the situation, let him make the call. Jason called me in later, his expression concerned. "The manuscript is mediocre at best. We'd reject it on quality alone. But him using your personal trauma without consent? That's borderline harassment." "I'd like to draft the rejection," I said decisively. "Make it count," Jason nodded. Back at my desk, I composed a professionally worded but unmistakably pointed rejection letter, which our legal team approved with minor adjustments. Within minutes of sending it, a text arrived from a number I didn't recognize. "Emma, it's Daniel. I just got your rejection letter. That's low, even for you. The book wasn't about you. Not everything is about you." I showed Layla, who raised an eyebrow. "Not about you?" "The main character's name is Ella, and she's left for her cousin Victoria. He literally named a character Warren Daniel." "Who's he kidding?" I blocked the new number without responding. That evening, I found a package waiting, photo albums from my mother. "Your story has always been your own," her note read, long before Daniel or Vanessa tried to rewrite it. Looking through the photos, I realized how much I'd compromised my authenticity for Daniel, how I'd begun to define myself through others' perceptions. The betrayal, painful as it was, had forced me back to myself. October 18th, what would have been my wedding day, arrived quietly. I'd taken the day off, not to mourn, but to honor my own journey. I spent the morning at a spa, the afternoon at the Museum of Fine Arts. That evening, I put on the blush dress with my name stitched inside. A knock at my door revealed Amy with a suitcase and champagne. "Surprise! You didn't think I'd let you spend today alone, did you?" She'd made dinner reservations at an exclusive rooftop restaurant. As we were escorted to our table, heads turned to admire the woman in the blush gown. For once, I didn't feel self-conscious. I felt powerful. "To new beginnings," Amy said, raising her glass. "To choosing ourselves," I amended. Amy gave me a silver bracelet with a compass charm. "To always help you find your way, even when the path isn't clear." Later, Amy's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then quickly put it away. "What is it?" I asked, noticing her tension. "A text from my mom. There was an incident at the wedding." "What kind of incident?" "Daniel's mother got into it with Vanessa's dad during the reception. Full-on shouting match about who was paying, and then the DJ played the original slideshow created for you and Daniel. Vanessa had a complete meltdown." The image was almost too perfect. Almost. "Is it wrong that I find that satisfying?" I asked. "Not at all," Amy assured me. "It's called poetic justice." Later that night, I stood by the window looking out at city lights. In another life, I would have been dancing at my wedding reception now, celebrating what I thought was forever with Daniel. Instead, I was here, in a city I loved, in an apartment that was truly mine, wearing a dress that represented not a union with someone else, but a homecoming to myself. 6 months ago, I'd stood in a bridal shop and discovered my cousin's name stitched where mine should have been. It had felt like the end of everything. Now I knew better. It had been the beginning. 1 year after what would have been my wedding day, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror adjusting the delicate pearl hairpin Rebecca had given me. The blush dress fit perfectly, a silent testimony to how little my external self had changed while my inner landscape had transformed completely. Today marked what Rebecca had called my recommitment ceremony, not to a partner, but to myself. The date she'd had embroidered inside my dress had arrived, and I intended to honor it. Boston had become truly home in the past year. My apartment now reflected my personality. Colorful throw pillows, bookshelves overflowing with both work manuscripts and personal reading, plants thriving on every windowsill. My job at Meridian had evolved beyond expectations when Jason appointed me head of a new imprint focused on women's stories of resilience and reinvention. "No one better qualified," he'd said simply when offering me the position. My phone buzzed with a text from Layla. "Car's downstairs whenever you're ready, boss lady." I smiled at the nickname my team had given me after my promotion. Taking one last look in the mirror, I grabbed my coat and headed out. The gallery was small but elegant, located in a converted warehouse in the Seaport district. Marcus, the photographer who had done my dress shoot a year ago, met me at the door. "Ready for your big night?" he asked, escorting me inside. The exhibition was my idea, born during a late-night conversation with Marcus months ago. Titled Reclamation, it featured his photographs of women in wedding dresses they never wore down the aisle, some due to broken engagements, others to pandemic cancellations, still others to more dramatic circumstances like my own. Each woman's story was different, but the common thread was resilience, the determination to reclaim what had been meant to symbolize one kind of beginning and transform it into another. My photos were featured prominently, along with 12 other women whose stories had moved and inspired me. We had all chosen to wear our dresses again, not as reminders of what we'd lost, but as celebrations of what we'd found, ourselves. The gallery was already filling with people, friends, colleagues, strangers drawn by the exhibition's unique premise. Zoe had flown in from home, and my parents would arrive tomorrow for the weekend. "Emma, this is incredible!" Zoe exclaimed, hugging me tightly. "I'm so proud of you." "Thanks for coming," I said, genuinely touched by her presence. "It means a lot." "Are you kidding? I wouldn't miss it. Plus, I had to meet this Boston version of you that everyone keeps raving about." As we moved through the gallery, I was approached by several of the other women featured in the exhibition, each expressing how the project had helped them process their own experiences. One woman had canceled her wedding after discovering her fiancé's gambling addiction. Another had been left at the altar. A third had walked away herself when she realized she was compromising too much of herself for a relationship that didn't nurture her. "You created something healing here," Marcus commented as we watched the interactions, "for them and for yourself." "That's what storytelling is supposed to do, isn't it?" I replied. "Help us make meaning from chaos." Later in the evening, as I was speaking with a reporter from the local Arts Weekly, my phone buzzed with a text from Amy. "Turn around." I looked over my shoulder to find Amy walking toward me, elegant in a dark blue dress. "What are you doing here?" I exclaimed, embracing her. "I thought you couldn't make it." "And miss my favorite cousin's triumph? Not a chance," she grinned. "The surprise worked perfectly, I see." "Absolutely. I had no idea." As Amy and I caught up, she subtly guided me toward a quieter corner of the gallery. "There's something you should know," she said, her expression turning serious. "Vanessa saw the exhibition announcement online. She's been telling anyone who will listen that you're obsessed and can't move on. A year ago, this information would have infuriated or hurt me. Now, I found myself merely shaking my head. Of course she has. You're not upset? Why would I be? Her opinion stopped mattering to me the moment she showed who she truly was. Amy studied my face, then smiled. You really have moved on, haven't you? Completely, I confirmed, realizing the truth of it as I spoke. What Vanessa thinks or says has no power over my life anymore. The exhibition lasted 3 hours. By the end, several of the dresses featured in the photos had been donated to a nonprofit that provided formal wear to underprivileged young women for proms and special occasions. Mine wasn't among them. I'd decided to keep it as a reminder of my journey. After the last guest had left, I found myself alone in the gallery with Marcus and Layla, who were helping the staff clean up. What now? Layla asked as we gathered our things to leave. After such a perfect night, I mean. Home, I replied simply. A cup of tea, a good book, the ordinary pleasures of a life that belongs entirely to me. Outside, the October air was crisp with the promise of winter. Boston's lights reflected off the harbor as we walked along the waterfront. I thought about how far I'd come since that day in the bridal shop, not just physically, relocating to a new city, but emotionally. The pain of Daniel and Vanessa's betrayal had faded from a sharp, constant ache to an occasional dull throb, like an old injury that only troubled me in cold weather. I no longer dreaded family gatherings where they might be present, though I still declined to attend most of them. I no longer tensed when their names were mentioned. Their actions had become simply one chapter in my story, not the defining moment I'd once feared it would be. Back in my apartment, I carefully hung the blush dress in my closet, not hidden away in the back, but visible, another garment among many, a symbol not of what might have been, but of what was, my strength, my resilience, my capacity for renewal. I made myself a cup of chamomile tea and curled up by the window, watching the city lights twinkle against the night sky. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "So proud of you, sweetheart. Can't wait to see the exhibition tomorrow." I smiled, typing back a quick response. Then I set my phone aside and picked up the novel I'd been reading, one from my own imprint at Meridian, about a woman rebuilding her life after an unexpected detour. A year ago, I'd learned that the life I thought I was building had been constructed on lies. Today, I'd celebrated the true foundation I'd created since then. Honesty with myself, the courage to stand alone rather than compromise my worth, the wisdom to recognize that endings often disguise themselves as beginnings. My cousin had stolen my wedding dress, my fiancé, and what I'd thought was my future, but she hadn't stolen me. And in the end, that was the only thing that mattered.